the Stargate project, CIA released documents stating that an alien race was discovered on Mars in 1984. CIA documents from 1984, recently released, detail an individual who sees, quote unquote, through the parapsychological activity known as remote viewing. They describe a defunct race of ancients composed of very tall, thin beings who once dwelled on Mars. Let's remember the Emerald Tablets written by Thoth the Atlantean, and I have a playlist for you. You should listen to them because it's a very fascinating discussion point as well. They had very advanced technology. They were even able to switch from one dimension to another, and they had interstellar travel too. And they claim there that one of their generals was exiled on Mars with his entourage of generals. The main general was buried under a face on Mars, and his entourage buried under pyramids near the face. That's the Cydonia face and pyramids. And that he claimed that in the ancient past that Mars had the similar type of temperature and life atmosphere as we have on Earth. Now, throughout the Cold War, the U.S. Central Intelligence Agency, CIA, undertook extraordinary experiments that surpassed traditional scientific boundaries, and among these was the Stargate project, where experts attempted to employ an individual's psychic abilities for remote viewing of distant objects. The report was part of the Stargate project, a venture by the U.S. Army Defense Intelligence Agency, DIA, and SRI International, a contractor based in California. The CIA documents titled Exploration of Mars, May 22, 1984, discuss the potential use of psychic phenomena such as remote viewing. Remote viewing is purportedly the ability of certain individuals to perceive a distant or unseen target solely with their mind. And according to the documents, the subject received a sealed envelope along with geographical coordinates, and inside the envelope was a 3x5 card inscribed with the words Mars, time of interest approximately 1 million years BC. And upon being given the coordinates, the subject employed remote viewing to observe Mars and reported seeing what appeared to be an oblique view of a pyramid or a pyramidal structure that was yellowish or ochre in color. Delving deeper into the past, the observer reports consistently encountering exceptionally large individuals. He said they appear slender and tall, yet they are quite substantial, adorned in some unnatural attire, the observer elaborates. And upon discovering a vast cavern and an endless steep cliff, the observer describes sighting an obelisk reminiscent of the Washington Monument. Further observations of Martian pyramids led the observer to report sightings of ancient beings in the throes of death. It was akin to sensing a silhouette of people very tall and slim. They were merely shadows, the observer recounts. On a positive note, these Martian inhabitants, as per the observer, held a very philosophical stance on death. They disclosed their quest for survival, which regrettably was in vain. The $20 million research initiative was allegedly in reaction to the Soviet Union's purported engagement in psychotronic or electromagnetic torture research. Sadly, the Stargate project was discontinued in 1995, following the CIA's conclusion that it lacked utility for intelligence operations. The Stargate project, remote viewing, has been showcased in multiple laboratories worldwide using diverse protocols. Joe McMoneagle, a renowned participant in such programs, asserted that he foresaw the location of the Soviet Typhoon-class submarine in 1979, a claim that was substantiated by satellite imagery in January 1980. McDonegal suggests that the remote viewing project was eventually abandoned, partly due to bias against it. Many were eager to utilize the program's results, yet no one was willing to acknowledge its use, fearing repercussions. This led to a stigma surrounding such practices. Beyond the typical espionage targets of the Cold War, the program sometimes ventured into more unconventional areas, including the exploration of Mars in 1984. During one session, the focus was on events that might have taken place on Mars millions of years ago. If such structures were real, it would herald a new chapter in science. Professional archaeologists have scrutinized satellite images of Mars, have often remained skeptical, dismissing them as mundane. Their skepticism may stem from the lack of experience in interpreting such data. Remote viewing was proposed as one method to corroborate this data. And in the session's transcript, the analyst, believed to be Joe McMoneagle, remote observer 1001 from the Stargate project, received a sealed envelope and geographic coordinates from an agent known as the controller, later identified as Captain Holm Skip Ed Water, leader of the U.S. Army Remote Vision Team. Dr. Putoff, a program participant, supplied Mars coordinates for additional experiments. Joe McMoneagle undertook the task without opening the envelope, describing his remote viewing visions. He perceived a pyramid-like structure, tall and situated on a vast yellowish flatland. Subsequently, he was directed to focus on a time closer to that specified in the envelope. McMoneagle recounted seeing atmospheric conditions akin to a sandstorm and the aftermath of a significant environmental catastrophe. Inquired about the presence of activity prior to the catastrophe, the analyst reported observing shadows of towering entities that once inhabited the area but have since vanished. Subsequently, he attempted to revisit the area when these beings were still present on Mars, only to face disruptions. Nonetheless, he succeeded in perceiving these entities, characterizing them as exceptionally tall and slender, adorned in peculiar attire. And subsequently, McMoneagle shifted his focus to a different location on Mars, detailing vast edifices with expansive chambers. As the session progressed, he discerned a colossal obelisk reminiscent of the monuments in Washington. During his observations, he comments describing the pyramids, which he believed served not as storm shields but as filters for sandstorms. He remarked that the pyramids were significantly larger and distinct from any he had previously known. In the session, McMoneagle described entities appearing to enter hibernation in anticipation of the ecological catastrophe's conclusion. He observed that these entities, despite their philosophical stance on the unfolding events, recognized their era was ending and sought survival methods, yet they were unsuccessful. Concluding the session, McMoneagle speculated on the potential aftermath of the cosmic occurrence capable of annihilating Mars' atmosphere, attributing it to possibly a meteorite or comet impact. He acknowledged the challenge of perceiving time accurately during remote viewing. Although the results of the session may seem fantastic, interest in exploring Mars and studying ancient civilization on the planet exists to this day. Some of the structures described by McMoneagle resemble artifacts found in satellite images, which some scientists interpret as traces of a possible civilization. Nonetheless, it's significant to acknowledge that the document in question is officially declassified CIA material, accessible only on the agency's website. While it may appear unscientific, this instant prompts us to consider the extent of human capabilities and the secrets that may lie beyond our perception. It's conceivable that science may eventually verify these extraordinary observations, but presently they are merely a cryptic chapter in the annals of clandestine research. This is on Solask. Please leave your comments and thank you for your support. Please support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.